and welcome into another live edition of the North Star Takes podcast, another post-game edition. Minnesota Vikings finally get a thrilling victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. Somewhat back on track now, I guess. They get the record back to 4-5. They win 27-20. Pretty complete games all the way across the board. Kirk Cousins had another nice day. Save a couple of boneheaded plays in the first half, I thought. Dalvin Cook obviously was running the rock pretty well today. Just noticed I have an error in the stat sheet here. Let's see. So, anyways, just a great game all around. Justin Jefferson obviously was huge today. You'd love to see that. That guy really needs to get the ball more, just how much he can change the game, especially when you're throwing down the field to him, letting him have these contested catch opportunities. So I guess what really stuck out to you from today's game, just overall, start to finish?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Justin Jefferson. Like Kevin Kugler mentioned on the broadcast, the Vikings record coming into this game this season was 3-0 when Jefferson had at least 7 catches and 0-5 when he didn't. I feel like that makes logical sense to every Vikings fan out there that the more you get the ball in your star players' hands, the more good things are going to happen. And case in point, it's plain obvious like that it's like 3-0, 0-5. Now we're 4-0 with him going over 7 catches because today he had a monster day, as you can see on the bottom there. He torched this Chargers defense, had so many nice high-pointed catches. It was huge. He had a lot of them, especially down the stretch, to ice the game. And I think this is what you expect out of your star players week in, week out. And to this point, it hasn't been his fault that he hasn't gotten involved the last couple of weeks. That's been on the coaching as well as Kirk himself. So
yeah.
I think it's great that we finally got him back in the mix here and got him the target share that he deserves. So I think you got to start there. And then you also got to think about how much Dalvin Cook got involved today too. I thought he had a pretty good game. And I think they gave him the rock plenty, as you can see there, 24 carries. And he had that huge ice the game first down on the 4th down. He always knows where the chains are. He always reaches out when he needs to, and had big touchdown run. The guy won't be denied when he absolutely needs to have it, I think. So yeah. I'm pretty happy with our star players' performances. I guess that's where I'd start. How about you, Baylor? What do you take away from this game first and foremost?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just the stars led us to victory, which is exactly what you want. And I was kind of telling our buddy Jackson throughout the game, I'm like, Dalvin Cook is going to have to make a nice play here to really put this game on ice, because you could sense the Chargers were still hanging around. They were down 7. We had the ball, and it's like, man, we just really need to drain some clock here. And I'm like, Dalvin's just going to have to make a play. And then I think on first down, we had like a holding or something.
Yes, we had so many holdings today. That was one of my big gripes. But
it might have been the face mask on Luke Stalker even.
No, of course, yes.
Just a joke that this guy's on the field. But anyways, Dalvin Cook on the next play rips off like a 10 to 12-yard run after it looked like he was dead in the water, and he just kept fighting and grinding. He, stuck his hand down so he could stay off the ground. Like, that's just an incredible play right there to keep the drive going. Really give us a shorter down and distance, which is really what Kirk Cousins needs, honestly, because getting 3rd and long and then you're really screwed. So
exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was a great play. And then obviously the pitch, which I don't know why we keep running these pitch plays, because we don't get any angles on these pitches. It's like a straight drop back pitch, which makes zero sense.
No sense. You never see any other teams do this, where Kirk literally turns around and vertically pitches the ball straight back, where it worked on the 4th down because it was like a more of a natural pitch play where you're naturally going to the right, not just straight back. Like, that just looks bad. So that's why you got that first down, gave him a chance, and he made the play. And I also want to go back to that play you pointed out where Dalvin picked up 11 on that big 2nd and long, and like he bailed out the coaching staff because that was a give up play. A run on 2nd and long again, like we've griped about for how many weeks now about this team and running in the wrong situation. So like kudos to him for really, like you said, keeping that drive alive and giving us the chance to just go ice the game.
Yeah, exactly. Bailing out the coaching staff seems to be a theme here with some of these players. Kirk Cousins has done it a few times this season. When Justin Jefferson's got big games, he's kind of bailing them out. But at the same time, he's kind of showing them, like, you need to be getting me the ball more because this is what happens when you do. Exactly. And, Dalvin Cook as well. It was so nice to see him get in the end zone finally, because they've really struggled finding a way to get some rushing touchdowns this season.
Yeah, that blew my mind when I saw he had only 2 touchdowns coming into today.
Yeah, and he missed a couple games, but, like, when he's played, he's actually done pretty well, like his yards and stuff every game, but it's like he's never getting in the end zone.
I feel like there's no reason he should never have less than 1 every game.
No, especially like I mean, I think the main problem is we always get down to like the 1 or 2 yard line, but we can never just punch it in. And once again, like the interior of the offensive line just is not very strong. Oli Udo had another rough day, had a few holding calls, I think. He's really struggling at right guard, which we can get into more later as well. But I mean, we got to be able to finish more, I think, especially down low. Because last year, every time we were at the 1 yard line, Dalvin Cook was able to punch it in. So not really sure what the difference is between this year and last year, other than Dakota Dozier was playing and he's horrible. So not exactly sure why that would make much of a difference in the run game, but.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there's all these situations that you can think back on as far as a red zone touchdown percentage. It's not nearly as good as it was not nearly as good as it was last year. Because I'm pretty sure last year, I want to say we actually had like a top 10 like goal to goal touchdown scored offense. I think that's the stat. And this year, yeah, it's non-existent. And I feel like all of our touchdowns honestly are coming through the air, like we said. And it's it's amazing how much we have turned this into the Kirk show with the red zone. Albeit he's been great, but still, I feel like Dalvin goal to go, you should be able to get enough push to get him in plenty of times with the best.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. Kirk's been great, and really, Thielen's been great in the red zone as well. He's been kind of his go-to guy. Today, obviously, it was Tyler Conklin who had a couple touchdowns, which that's always nice to see. It's good to get the tight end involved, and I mean, Tyler Conklin can really play. Like, this team is going to be really nice when they get Irv Smith back next year, and they have Conklin too.
Exactly.
It's like we have an embarrassment of riches on offense right now. So
I know.
It's crazy because it'd be nice if Zimmer had learned previous to this week that he needs to lean in on the offense because the offense is going to be able to put up points. I mean, even next week against the Packers, I fully anticipate we're going to be able to put up points. It's just whether or not we're going to be able to stop Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know. I don't understand. No, you're good. Yeah. I don't really understand why it's taken this long into the season, I guess, to get this figured out because it's been pretty obvious to us, from the beginning of the season. I'd say the Arizona game really made it obvious. Like our defense was basically fully healthy minus Anthony Barr. Still gave up, 30 – I don't even remember what the score of that game was, 37, 38 points or something like that. I mean, at that point, it's like we're in a shootout with the Arizona Cardinals. Like, our offense is good. Like, lean into the offense, let them do their thing. And granted, Clint Kubiak's kind of been a disaster post-bye week, so he kind of turned it around a little bit today. I mean, it wasn't great by any means, but taking more chances, trying to find Jefferson more, I mean, all that plays into more success, at least I believe.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. With the talents on this offense, there's no reason we shouldn't be averaging 30 a game just because – we have like we've said this a million times. I guess maybe it's beating a dead horse at this point, but with the skill position guys we have, even with like deficiencies that might exist on the interior of the offensive line, and I feel like we should still be able to make it happen. At least be able to scheme around it, I would say. And I feel like our quarterback again should be able to elevate us more. And despite all these issues, I feel like still there's no excuse for us to not put up 30 a game and not have to rely on the defense quite so much, just because. I mean, certainly they're banged up, like especially coming into this week. You saw the pregame list of all the guys that were out, whether they'd be on IR for the rest of the year, just missing today, whatever it was. And so you can't obviously rely on a defense that's half there from what you started with. But at the same time, even if we were at full strength, it's still, like you said, the offense still should be the driving force of winning on this team. And there's a reason why we will have led by at least 7 points in every game this season. That's because the offense get off these quick starts. But it's just you got to be able to sustain it, and kind of makes you think if you want to go down the conspiracy road here and think about like who's really running the show behind the scenes as far as making up these scripts coming into this game. Like, is that Clint or is this a collection of the staff or what? I think that should certainly be thought about by fans. And like you said, it's Clint. It's a little sketchy.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. Like I thought today there was more creativity and more outside the box, I guess, type plays. But it kind of makes you wonder if Clint's getting a little help now. Maybe like if there's another assistant on the staff that's maybe helping him draw some stuff up, or maybe good old Gary's helping him too. So
yeah,
I mean, who knows? But I don't know. I still don't really think Clint Kubiak's up for the job. He seemed pretty overwhelmed because when you got this many weapons on offense, you shouldn't be struggling, especially when it's coming down the stretch and you need you need to score points to win the game, really. They've come up short. So on the defense, though, like I thought the defense played a pretty dang good game today. I mean, Justin Herbert looked kind of frazzled all game. They were knocking him down. He was on the ground a lot today. Eric Kendricks got in there for a sack. Cam Bynum got in there for a sack, which, man, Cam Bynum can freaking play, man. I mean, I'm really encouraged by that. What was he again? A 4th or 5th round pick?
4th round pick.
4th rounder. They converted him from corner to safety. I mean, that's pretty impressive what he's been able to do here these last couple weeks.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, when we first drafted him, everybody was touting about how he had this high football intelligence because you're not going to draft a guy and immediately convert him if you don't think he's capable of doing it. And I think that comes with a lot of smarts. And I think also, like, obviously, you got to have the athletic ability, but I think more so if you think he's an intelligent player, you feel comfortable taking him, especially with a 4th round pick. I know it can be debated how valuable that really is or not, but at the same time, you take a guy that you think can turn into something potentially, and you think you'll get more out of him at the safety position. That's what you're seeing so far, and I think he seems like a really instinctive player, albeit it's still been limited snaps, so you don't know for sure, but early signs are promising. And I think you're just seeing a lot more from this rookie class in general beyond Cam Bynum. I saw Patrick Jones got some run today, which is good to see because I don't think I can remember seeing him playing any snaps before today. So that's good. Obviously, it was kind of weird that our rookie that was playing early on, like the only one, was ISM, and then he was on one of our inactives today.
Yeah,
so,
I don't get that.
So that's kind of strange how the tables have turned like that. But you're definitely seeing a lot more contributions out of this rookie class from obviously Darius playing every snap at left tackle now to Patrick Jones playing a little bit on the edge, and then you got Cam Bynum, like you said, and then you got Kenny returning all these kicks. And I'm really excited about Kenny. Maybe he's not quite Cordero, but at the same time, I feel like he could still be the game breaker and still be a threat to house one every single time.
For sure, and I would have really liked to see him get on offense a little bit today too.
Yeah, that's true.
Dalvin Cook once again kind of dominated the running back touches. I think Madison only had 4 carries and maybe a catch or 2. So, which, it's understandable because Dalvin Cook's the bell cow. He's the main guy. But I think it'd be nice to sprinkle in like an Nwangu every now and then, throw him a screen pass and, watch him run. Because
he could do the same thing Abdullah did before.
Exactly. Watch him get out in space and, he's faster than everybody else on the field. Like, give him a shot. So, I mean, hopefully they're able to work that in as well as the season progresses here. But, and Eric Kendricks too. I mean, what a game from him today. That incredible interception. It seems like every other game he's just got an incredible interception, makes an incredible play. I mean, I know we've kind of talked about like Danielle Hunter being the best player on this defense, maybe Harrison Smith, but I really think it's Eric Kendricks.
Yeah, it's got to be EK. Oh my gosh, this guy, he gets better and better every week. It feels like even as he's approaching 30 years old, this guy he's an instinctive player. I kind of just got something saying about Bynum, like it seems like you just know that Kendricks is, and he has incredible ball skills. This guy can catch better than all of our corners, which is, I feel like that's questionable in itself. But this guy, I mean, I never see him dropping picks, really. Like this guy, it's always around the ball. He's making a ton of tackles, ranging sideline to sideline. And like you saw today, that was just another nice play down the field to set up our offense and plus territory. So I gotta think he's the best middle linebacker in the league. If not the best, then I would say top 5 for sure.
Yeah, and like I was watching, they were kind of showing the defense huddle up at one point today. And I'm like, man, Eric Kendricks is really like the lone wolf out there. He's playing with Nick Vigil. He's playing with a Cam Bynum behind him. He's got the young corner, Cam Dantzler, but he's got Bashad Breeland on the other side. Obviously, the defensive line has like none of their original starters besides Dalvin Tomlinson. So like, I mean, he's playing with a bunch of guys that really aren't like the main starters on this team. And I don't know, he's just doing a great job out there, I think, of leading this defense, making sure people know where they need to be. And Nick Vigil really plays well too, I think. Like he's kind of a bargain for like whatever he's making, $1 million or whatever. I mean, really can't complain about his game. And then like even Cam Dantzler, you didn't hear much from him today because he wasn't getting burnt, which is great to see. The only time Keenan Allen was getting the ball was either on Breeland or Mackenzie Alexander a couple times.
Exactly. Dude, I feel like this is becoming a theme that's become more and more evident. I think it was probably like blindly obvious at the beginning of the season, but like it's kind of resurfacing after his good game against Carolina now with Pat P out. Now these quarterbacks clearly are going after Breland. It feels like 75% of the time or something, just continuing to pepper him. But I mean, he gets schooled by these great route runners like Keenan Allen. Like how many times they put him on skates today, and how many catches did he rack up? And that was just frustrating me because I'm playing Keenan Allen this week in the fantasy league. So it's like seeing catch after catch after catch. I'm like, no more of this. It's just continuously going after Bashad. So Dancer must be doing at least an all right job if they're not even really targeting him. Because I'd have to go look it up exactly, but I really can't remember that many targets today. Maybe a couple.
Yeah, I remember there was one like on the goal line. They threw a slant to Mike Williams, and it popped out of his hands.
Yep.
Dancer kind of got burned on that one. It would have been a touchdown if he caught it. But, I mean, other than that, yeah, I didn't see much from him today. He came up and made a nice play on like a screen pass. But, yeah, other than that, like you didn't hear anything from him, which is always good from a corner because you remember the first few games of the season, we didn't hear Patrick Peterson's name a whole lot, and that's just because he was doing his job. So
exactly.
You obviously love to see that. So Dancer will obviously be back next year. Mackenzie Alexander, I'd really like to see be back next year. But then beyond that, we're going to have to, do some digging to find another starting outside corner.
For sure. And that could come via the first round of the draft again. I know nobody really wants to hear that because of how many corners we've taken in recent memory in the first round, but I think it's very possible just because there's a clear hole there. It's because our front office has missed how many times on that. So eventually you'd like to think they get it right and solve that once and for all. So unfortunately, that could be a route we end up going down. But we could also entertain signing somebody that could hopefully step right in and at least be adequate. But speaking of these corners, I guess I don't really know the status of his health these days as far as his recovery. But do you know anything about Pat Pete? I think he's eligible to come off the IR now because he's missed 3 weeks worth of games.
I think I saw there was a Vikings reporter that was at practice one day this week.
Okay.
I don't remember which one it was, but they said Patrick Peterson was doing some running on the side.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's got to be at least somewhat encouraging, but I guess I haven't seen anything concrete about if he's going to be truly ready to come off IR. Because, that'd be a huge addition to get back for the Packers game. Exactly. I would probably assume Barr is going to be back. I think he probably just needed a week off with that reoccurring knee injury. So if you can get Barr and Patrick Peterson back for the Packers game, I mean, that's obviously only going to help more. It sounds like Aaron Jones has an MCL sprain for the Packers, so he's probably not playing next week. So we'll just have to focus on shutting down A.J. Dillon, which I could see us having issues with that, honestly. But Pierce is on IR, so we won't be getting him back. Harrison Smith will be back as well, probably. So, which is kind of tough because, I'm really liking the way Cam Bynum's playing. Obviously, Harrison Smith's the better player, but it'd be nice to see a guy
get run.
Yeah, it'd be nice to find a way to get Cam Bynum in there, whether in some hybrid role or something. I don't really know, but I mean, he's a playmaker. He's not afraid to. When he identifies something, he goes right for it, whether it's the pick he made last week or the sack he made earlier today. I mean, he's a very instinctive player, and that shows just the way he plays.
Yeah, because, I mean, I don't know if you saw the pregame interview that he did out there in L.A. because it was a big story for him since he went to Cal and he's from California. They talked about him returning, and they talked about how he got his first start last week. They talked about that interception specifically, obviously, because that was a really nice play. And he brought up, it was a third and long situation, know what kind of concepts they like to run. And then once I recognized it right away, I could make a play on the ball, and he did it. And then made a great play. So I think it speaks to the intelligence, football intelligence there. And I think, like you said, it'd be nice to see him get more playing time. But again, if Harrison Smith's back, then it's a little bit hard to probably fit him in there. But it really will be interesting to see who's all on the field for us next week against Green Bay. I feel like we have a lot of floating factors and variables out there as far as who will and won't play in this game. Because like you mentioned, just a couple there with Barr and Harrison Smith. And then you also go beyond that, like we talked about, Pat Pete probably not coming back next week. But I guess never wouldn't rule it out totally. I mean, I feel like Pat Pete probably tries his hardest to get back into a huge rivalry game like this one. This could be a game that could make or break the season. Because I think if we win, I think we're looking at great chances to make the playoffs as a wild card. I think the division's already out of reach, unfortunately, and that sucks because there's still we got
half the season left, really. Yeah,
we still have half a season left, but it's like how many games you really picture the Packers losing here the rest of the year? Because even though they sputter sometimes, and today the offense is really muff for them, I noticed, and because they scored 17 points or whatever it was. And obviously Rodgers is a little bit rusty coming back from COVID, but
Yeah.
I think that it's just they find ways to win in the end, no matter how pretty or ugly it looks. So I think it's just a dead dream right now to win the division, but could get certainly back in that wild card race with a win next week.
Yeah, which would be great. I mean, the Saints lost today, which was big. Falcons lost today. The Panthers beat up on the Cardinals, which is unfortunate because it's really between us, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers.
Yep.
For all those wild card spots, because the Rams or Cardinals will end up getting one of them.
Yep.
So
Seahawks, I think, are done.
Yeah, Seahawks look like they're done. They're what, 3-6 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't score a point today with the return of Russell Wilson, so that's not a good look for them. Which I don't really hate to see. The Seahawks have kind of been in there every single year, and I don't mind seeing them fall down. So,
is Pete Carroll on the hot seat?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know because they had the issues with Russell Wilson potentially wanting to move on in the offseason.
Yeah. Do you come to a decision where they have to choose Russ or Pete?
I don't even know if it'll be a decision because if they have a bad year, maybe Russ just says, I'm actually done and I want out no matter what, because maybe he wouldn't want to start over with a new coach and a new system. And I don't know, man. I don't know. It's something to entertain because Russell Wilson would make a lot of sense coming here, honestly.
That'd be tasty.
I mean, obviously it's just completely, it's a pipe dream probably, but it would make sense because Seattle would probably want a veteran quarterback in return because unless they end up drafting one, which is entirely possible, but it would make sense to get them Kirk Cousins on a 1-year deal. And then we'd have Russell Wilson, which obviously he's got a big contract and we'd have to maneuver that too, but there'd have to be some other compensation in there too. I don't think you just do a 1-for-1 swap for Russ, but it's something to think about because Russell Wilson's going to be on the move. Deshaun Watson, we'll see what happens with him, but he'll probably be on the move. But potentially Aaron Rodgers too. There's going to be some more quarterback dominoes to fall this upcoming offseason too. So the Vikings could definitely be a part of that, especially if they fall short of their goals this year, which it's kind of looking like they will. If they make the playoffs, that's great, but I really don't see them doing anything once they get there. And then it's hard to justify bringing back Zimmer and Kirk at that point.
I kind of want to see it come down to a decision like that where we squeak in the playoffs and then play maybe a competitive wild card game, and then you're really squarely on the bubble probably as Rick or ownership. What do we do? Because it's probably do you fire a coach, move on from a quarterback, or have to make the playoffs? But it's from our point of view, it's we're not trying to scratch in the playoffs, we're trying to win Super Bowls, but at the same time, does ownership feel differently as far as giving themselves chances, and they think this is the way towards sustained success or at least sustained relevance. So it kind of depends on the goals of everybody in the organization. So I think that would certainly be a hurdle to clear in early part of the first thing in the offseason next year. But obviously we're a long ways off from that. They still got a long ways to go even make the playoffs, but just worth or I should say fun to think about.
Well, the nice part is we beat a team like the Chargers, and the Chargers are a good team. They're more of an up-and-coming team. They're definitely not established by any means, but that's a very solid road win. Granted, the Chargers don't have a great, fan base to make that a tough environment to play in. But if you can, the Packers are a rivalry game, and sure they've had their fair share against us. I think I saw since 2019 we're 1-3 against the Packers or something like that. Obviously, that's not ideal, and you'd like to see more wins there. But last year, we beat them when we were 1-5. We went to Lambeau and beat them. And this year, I don't think that team's as good as that team was last year. So, I mean, if we can't beat them at home with the crowd back in it, rivalry game, it's going to be a noon game on Fox, which is just prime Kirk Cousins time slot. If you can't win that game, then you're not going anywhere. But if you can win and get back to 5-5, then you got the Niners, the Lions, the Steelers, etc. coming up after that. Those are all very winnable games. So things are starting.
Pittsburgh Steelers today.
Nice tie with the Lions. I saw a tweet today that said, might have been Arif Hassan. So the Lions will still find a way to go 0-16 in a 17-week schedule. So I thought that was pretty funny. But
that's pretty good.
Of course, the Steelers would tie. It looked like just an ugly, sloppy game in the rain, and all their jerseys were super dirty, and you got missed field goals all over the place. And
That's a Dan Campbell game. Come on.
it
If you
really
think of
is.
Dan Campbell and think of stereotyping a football game he'd be involved in, I feel like today's was definitely it.
I'm really happy for the Lions that they did not lose today. I mean,
Yes.
that's
I love that he got a tie before he got a win.
yeah, right. Think about how hard that is.
I know.
Oh
God.
man.
So yeah, I'm not threatened by the Steelers, albeit it's a Thursday night game and
True.
that can be a little bit goofy. And like you mentioned with the Niners and the Lions, you'd like to think the Lions, that should be a very winnable game, albeit like we came all the way down to the horn at home and kicked that 54-yarder for the win. But
Yeah.
that one you'd like to think you have a good chance in. And then, like you mentioned with San Francisco right after this Green Bay game, that's another one with a struggling team. But still, in San Francisco, that's not usually the friendliest environment to us. So, like, there's still a lot to be decided this season. But it all starts with this Green Bay game for sure. Like you mentioned, I think the season could kind of be saved if they win next week.
For sure, yeah. Because 5-5, it's a whole new lease on life, basically. I can't remember. Did we get back to 5-5 last year? Or was it 6-6 or something? I thought we got maybe back to 500. I don't remember.
I think we got back to 6-6. I want to
Okay.
say. I think we were 1-5. Then we came out of the bye, and we won 3 in a row against the division. So we were at 4-5. And then we dropped that Dallas game, but then we won the next 2 against like Jacksonville and Carolina or something.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, yeah, last year when we were 6-6, we were right in the middle of the playoff hunt. We were on the graphics, in the hunt and whatever. Yep. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess at this point they're not going to have a good draft pick. You might as well try to make the playoffs, which they will. But I don't know. Like I think the end is still coming with Zimmer. They're really gonna have to do something incredible in the playoffs. They'll have to get to the NFC Championship game as a 7 or 6 seed, when no one's really expecting it. So I don't know. The end is near, so I'm just kind of trying to enjoy what I can out of this season, I guess, because the Timberwolves suck. The Wild are nice to have. Obviously, they're doing really well, but obviously nothing beats NFL football on a Sunday. And I'm going to watch the Vikings no matter what. And as long as they're putting on an entertaining brand of football, I guess I can't really complain. So, and when in a game like today where your quarterback, running back, and top wide receiver are all doing well, I mean, that's really what you want as a fan. So definitely can't complain about today's game. And if they would have just won one of these other games, the Cowboys game for sure they should have won. I mean, losing to Cooper Rush is unacceptable. The Ravens game completely blew that game. I don't know. And the Cardinals game, obviously we lost on a last-second field goal. This team, you got all these people all the time. Well, they could have done this and they could have done that. Well, they didn't. So they're sitting where they are right now. And they're a team that won't give up. I'll say that much.
Yeah, exactly. I think they'll battle. They'll make every single game they play close. And it just comes down to the end, whether you finish it or not. And like today they did, but last couple of weeks they did not. So what's in store next week? At least we won today, in my opinion, to make this game against this huge rival game against Packers a lot more juicy. Like I think it's gonna be a lot more fun. Like we'd have lost today and fell to 3-6. I'm kind of flattened about trying to get hyped about next week against the Packers, just because it's like, what energy do I have left? Like what about these last 3 games we just played makes me feel like we're gonna win today.
Exactly. And it would have been like last year when we were 1-5 coming out of the bye, going into Lambeau, and we're like, well, we're going to get smoked. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then they end up winning, and it's like, okay, Dalvin Cook has a great game, and I don't know. Like it's just like when you least expect them to do something, they do something. And then when you put expectations on them is when they fall short. And that is the literal walking definition of mediocrity. And that's what the Vikings have been mostly under Mike Zimmer, definitely under Kirk Cousins. So it's super frustrating, man. But I don't know. We'll take the win, I guess.
Yeah, when Zim's back's on the wall, that's when he comes out to play. But
I saw he made some comment today. He's like, I told my players this week that if you come out and play hard and you can get a victory when everyone's shooting arrows at you, basically saying like everyone doubted us, and like, yeah, for good reason. He also made some comment today after the game about how Justin Jefferson was pretty upset last week after not getting a lot of targets. And he went up to Justin Jefferson and said, you're going to get targeted more this week. So,
wow.
Good thing that he's realizing that, like, you can't have your star wide receiver unhappy, because he knows what happened with Diggs. You can't just sweep it under the rug and say, oh, who cares? He's just He's a player. I don't care what position he is. I know more than he does, and I know how we're gonna win. Like, at least he's like, I mean, it's probably too late, but at least he's taking steps to like try and keep Justin Jefferson happy, because that's the main thing. Like, Justin Jefferson is probably the most important piece to this team, especially for the long term.
Yeah.
So keeping him happy is absolute priority number one for me.
Totally. That's huge that Zim had that awareness and took it upon himself to make it a point to go talk to him and be like, yep, you're going to be targeted more because we need to put the ball in your hands. Because like I mentioned at the beginning of this, it's like now we're 4-0 when he gets at least 7 catches and we're 0-5 when he doesn't. So
Yeah.
I feel like you can't be more cut and dry obvious than that. So I think that's huge, and I hope that trend continues. I hope this isn't a 1 week show here, and then we just go back to what we were doing the last couple of weeks next week, because obviously we're going to get railroaded. But but this season just so many ups and downs, lots of like thrilling wins and crushing defeats, and you just never know where it's going to go next. It's always interesting, but at the same time, it's like just put away these games because we don't need to come down to the wire with every single one of them.
And I was begging them to do that today. I'm like, I'm so glad they went for it on that 4th down.
Oh, I know.
And that they did
That
the
was
pitch
huge.
to Dalvin.
Yes.
Granted, luckily he was able to squeak through there and stretch the ball out. But that's a winning play. If you get the 1st down, the game is over. And that's kind of what they tried doing last year against Seattle.
Yep.
They had that 4th and 1. Madison got stuffed.
And I applaud that play call.
Yes.
Yeah.
You play to win the game. And if you kick the field goal, that's great. You're up 10, but there's still whatever, a couple minutes left.
And obviously making that field goal was no sure thing.
Exactly. He misses the field goal. They get a short field. It's all you have to do is get 2 yards. If you can't get 2 yards, you probably don't deserve to win the game. So I absolutely applaud them for going for it there.
Yeah, plus I don't want to get too nitpicky here and really overanalyzing, especially when it comes to the kicking game. But I don't know if anybody even noticed this or not today, but if you notice all Greg Joseph's kicks, whether it be field goals, extra points, whatever it was today, basically everything was just tucked barely inside that right upright.
I did notice
so it's
that.
like, do you really think we'd come down to the end? He'd probably push it outside the uprights or what?
Yeah, it's impossible to trust him, because that would have been probably like a 50-yard field goal,
Yeah.
And I noticed as well on a couple of them, the snap was high. The punter, Barry, kind of had to reach up and grab it and then put it down. And so I noticed that on a couple of them too. But I would never want it to come down to special teams, honestly, like that.
No. And I kind of say, how about our special teams in general lately, though? Like, they're not making these boneheaded mistakes that we saw all of last year. Like, this year feels like a night and day difference. Obviously, last week we had the kick return touchdown right out of the half, and then you got D.D. Westbrook. Man, he almost house on today too. That was huge. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, once he started running across the field, like he literally went sideline to sideline there. I'm like, this isn't going anywhere. Then he cut up the field, and they sealed it. They sealed it nice, and he made a play. He just couldn't get past one more guy to take it all the way. And then you got Greg Joseph, who has honestly been solid for the most part this year, I'd say, better than I expected him to be. So Barry, too, I think he's been a pretty solid punter. I haven't seen I feel like I haven't seen a lot of ducks or anything this year. And obviously maybe this is complete overanalyzing, talk about the special teams in this much detail. But still, I'm pretty happy to see it, that we can have that third phase, because even something as what seems as small as special teams can make or break a game sometimes. Like, that can be the margin of the margin between victory and defeat.
For sure. And like that D.D. Westbrook punt return was absolutely huge. I believe we got a touchdown out of that drive, which we should have, because
I think
there wasn't a field goal.
Kurt fumbled.
Oh, it was? Oh,
yeah, I think so. Yeah, but then
way,
I think once he fumbled it, then I think we got the ball back after like a 3-and-out, I want to say. But,
okay. Well, theoretically,
but still, you're giving your offense a great chance there.
Exactly. You get the ball at like the 30-yard line or whatever he returned it to. Like, you can't ask for much more than that. So, yeah, that's great to see. I remember last year we had, 17 punt return yards on the season.
Yeah, that was a disaster.
He ripped off like a 50, 60-yard return right there. Like, that was pretty impressive. And obviously, Kene Nwangu, very exciting special teams player. And I'm kind of thinking that's why Amir Smith-Marset was inactive too. It's like, well, if he's not returning kicks, they're not really going to have a need for him, because they never go more than 4 receivers. Sure. D.D. Westbrook's the 4th receiver. So kind of makes sense, I guess, why he's inactive. It'd still be nice to get him in there, though, and do like an end around with him or something. Like, you can make plays, your design plays for these speed guys. Like, you can get Nwangu in on plays like that as well, It could,
I know, right?
yeah, they might only touch the ball 1 or 2 times a game, but at least it's an impact play,
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think there's a lot of ways you can get some playmakers involved, and it's just you got to be creative, and that's where I that's another complaint I have about our coaching staff. I guess is that I don't think we got the sometimes I don't think we got the creativity there. Just plain and simple, I guess that to be able to maximize what we have on this roster and go as deep as like we mentioned with D Westbrook, the fourth receiver. So I think it's great that these guys are out there making plays because that can really that could change a game because those are extra plays you don't get all the time. So when you do get them, then you take advantage and then you're sitting in a good spot that the other team probably won't be able to replicate. So
Yeah, exactly. Just a quick shout out. We just crossed the 200 subscriber mark this last week. So thank you for everyone who has subscribed to this channel so far.
yes, it's huge. Thank you guys.
We look forward to keep pumping out Minnesota sports content. And as long as the Vikings are doing well, we'll obviously keep pumping out Vikings content too. So I guess good or bad, we'll be doing it. So we'll be here every week after every game,
Of course.
just going through it. So yeah, super, super excited for that. We appreciate each and every one of you. And be sure to tell a friend as well if you got Minnesota sports fans, friends that are looking for an outlet to get some different opinions or vent some frustrations, whatever it is. Make sure to direct them to the North Star Takes podcast. So we really do appreciate that. But we'll get back into the Vikings game here. Obviously, it was so funny because they showed the divisions today for each team that was playing in the game, and the Bears are so bad, and the Lions are so much worse. And it's frustrating because like we're basically at the Bears level right now, and this team is so much more talented than the Bears are, and we're basically a game above them right now. So I don't know, man. It's just missed opportunities everywhere. Like you said, the Packers pretty much have this division wrapped already, which is super unfortunate, and it's going to make it what 4 years in a row, 3 years, I think.
I think 3 years because the Bears won in 18.
Somehow with Trubisky, but
yeah, that defense is nuts.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'm really hopeful that Aaron Rodgers didn't look exactly engaged today. The little bit of the Packers game I was watching, so I don't know. Maybe things are kind of getting, an impasse there. I guess maybe the writing's on the wall that he's not going to be back. I mean, they're 8-2. They're doing very well, but
this isn't like off brand for them the last couple of years.
Exactly. I mean, they were 13-3 the last 2 seasons, and that clearly wasn't good enough for him. So,
yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's all about winning the championships in the end. So, and plus, when you hear the reports come out this week that you sent to me from, can't remember who that was. Somebody verified on Twitter. I'll take it for what it's worth. But the OBJ with the Packers and how that fell through because of the front office and apparently lowballing him. So then he's going out to LA, and thankfully for LA, they signed him. And the next day, Robert Woods tears his ACL. So, man, I can't imagine if they wouldn't have got OBJ, then I don't know. LA would probably be panicking right now. But at the same time, that's going back to the beginning of the story though with the Packers. I think that's very telling that this is just yet another guy that Rodgers probably would have loved to bring in that fell through because of the front office who he has known grievances with.
Yeah, and I don't think the front office is going to change their position because Rodgers threw a fit, So, like, I think they're pretty dug into how they want to approach building the roster.
Yep.
Obviously, he has different opinions.
Yep.
He wanted to bring back Randall Cobb, which, Cobb had, I think, one good game, and that was when everybody was out, basically. All the receivers were out. So, I don't know. It seems like it's heading for a divorce there, which is fine. I mean, I'm ready to get Rodgers out of this freaking division, and whether or not he ends up being the Vikings quarterback in a couple of years, whatever. But we keep having all these dreams. Can we get Russ here? Can we get Aaron Rodgers here? Like, and in all honesty, like, I hope Kirk's not back next year, especially at his current price tag. But I could honestly just see it. I could really see him being back because whoever the next coach that comes in is, might just want him for the 1 year and then go from there,
I don't know, though, because if you would come into this situation and clearly see that Kirk was probably a leading factor, that if Zim inevitably gets fired, that Kirk was a leading factor in that. So it's like, do I want to keep this quarterback around that got the last guy fired? Like, probably not.
Yeah,
but like you said, there's also flexibility there that he's only on the books for 1 more year. And it just depends how much the ownership and front office expects you to compete next year. Because if they expect to compete right away in year one, then you're probably moving off of them because of the cap constraints. But if they're not too concerned what you do next year, then you probably could afford to ride it out with Kirk at his ridiculous price tag
Yeah.
and let him walk. So I don't know. It all depends, I guess. You just don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But I'd like to think I'm still leaning way more towards Kirk this being the last dance for him here in Minnesota. But you
Yeah.
never know, I guess. Like you said, it's possible because, like you said, he's technically still on the books for next year.
Yeah, exactly. And you and I both saw the report today. I think Jay Gruden did some podcast or something,
Yep.
and he basically said, I think it was after the 2017 season, so it would have been when Kirk was a free agent or during the season or something.
Yep.
Or no, because did they release Kirk? Was that the deal? He wasn't
No.
actually,
His
he was on.
contract expired. He's on 2 different franchise
That's
tags
right.
back to back
Yep.
years.
That's right. So they just decided straight up not to bring him back. But Jay Gruden basically said there was an opportunity there. They could have traded him to San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan for what, 2 firsts and 2 seconds or something like that.
I can't believe he would turn that much.
And yeah, and that's and Kirk's gotten better since he's come here, so don't get that twisted.
Yeah.
But basically the Washington football team owner didn't want to do business with Kyle Shanahan. So and instead Kirk Cousins walks for nothing, and they've been screwed ever since at quarterback. So that's just malpractice right there. If you can get something for Kirk Cousins, you do it. I don't care who you're doing business with. That's ridiculous. But it kind of makes me think now that Kirk Cousins would have some good trade value now still. At the very least, I would think he's, worthy of a first round pick. There's got to be some team out there that would be willing to trade for him, even if his cap hit is ridiculous. Maybe they'd sign him to an extension once they trade for him, lower his cap hit. I don't know, but there's got to be some team out there that would be looking for a solid veteran quarterback to help stabilize their current situation.
No, I totally agree. There's got to be some landing spot for him that makes sense where, like you said, I think we could really net a first-round pick for him at least, and that'd be really exciting. Just unloading all that money and then have multiple first-rounders going into next year, and there's a lot of opportunity there that I'd be excited about, and I kind of wish that San Francisco was still a landing spot because I feel like that's where the value would probably be as far as some team, organization, coach that would be over aggressive in trying to pursue him and give him the farm. But that would be nice. And I obviously that's not very realistic with them just taking Trey Lance this year after trading how many first round picks to move up. But boy, that'd be a lot of fun if there was some scenario out there where we got Trey Lance back somehow for Kirk.
Right. Yeah, because if you think about it, Shanahan's going to be on the hot seat regardless, I think, and I don't think they'll fire him after this season.
No.
They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, and obviously Garoppolo's not reliable.
No.
So maybe they really are bullish on Trey Lance long term. Obviously, you'd think they would be if they moved up all that way to pick him at number 3. But I don't know. If Kyle Shanahan gets desperate enough, is he going to want to trade for Kirk Cousins and ride with his guy? I mean, it's no secret Kirk Cousins is Kyle Shanahan's ideal quarterback. So I don't know. I mean, granted, maybe Trey Lance changes that with his athleticism, and he's got a huge arm and all that stuff. So maybe that changes with Trey Lance, but I don't know. Maybe there is a scenario out there where Shanahan gets desperate enough and he wants to trade for Kirk. And obviously, we would probably get Trey Lance back in that deal. So it'd be hard not to. But then at that point, obviously, the Vikings are kind of turning a new page, starting a young quarterback. So expectations would be lowered and all that. So
yeah, exactly. Isn't that weird how the perception of Kyle Shanahan is he's this great coach, and personally, I think he has a pretty creative offensive mind. I feel like he's really brought into the league, or he's been one of the front runners of using a lot of motion in his offense, because I think San Francisco always leads the league in motioning guys, and you're going to look at what the defense is in, whether it be zone or man or whatever.
Yep.
And I think he's got the football intelligence there, but at the same time, it's on the flip side, every season he's been there, and he's been there since 2017 now, he's been below 500 every year, except for the one year he was above 500. They went all the way to the Super Bowl, and they're literally a fourth quarter away from winning it. So it's well, which Kyle Shanahan do you really think you have? Do you have one that you feel good about moving forward that honestly hasn't won that many games, got that sub 500 record overall, and this now his 5th season, but
Mm-hmm.
this is also kind of took you to the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. So it's like, well, how comfortable are we with rolling forward with him?
And it kind of makes you wonder, like, is he just a really good offensive coordinator or is he a good head coach? You know, it's kind of like with Zim. I think we've kind of all figured out Zim's a fantastic defensive coordinator, one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. Head coach wise, not so great. So some guys are just meant to be coordinators, and that's fine. I think Josh McDaniels kind of figured that out, honestly. And look what he's doing in New England. I mean, Mac Jones is looking real good right now. And we can kind of get into that a little bit too, because obviously the Vikings passed on Mac Jones. The Patriots pick him. I'm still of the belief that, like,
He won
Mac,
award too.
no, Mac Jones is, I mean, he's probably, I don't know. It's hard to say he's better than Kirk Cousins right now because he's not, but he might have more natural talent, I guess, than Kirk Cousins. But the mobility part of it, they're pretty much the exact same. I think Mac Jones maybe manipulates the pocket a little better. He can move around, step up a little better than Kirk does. But I just, with how rough this offensive line still is, especially the interior, Bradbury's probably back next week, so I'd assume they throw him back in there.
Yep.
Like, I don't think it would work here with Mac Jones. And it would basically, if the Vikings are going to have this subpar offensive line, which they've been pretty average, I'd say, this year, we got our tackles locked down. I really think Ezra Cleveland can be the left guard. But then obviously center and right guard are still up for debate. So if you're not going to have like a bona fide great line all the way across, then you might as well have a quarterback that can play make, escape, basically bail out the offensive line when they're not doing their job. And we saw a couple instances today where Kirk just kind of sat there. And like there was one play, I think, in the first half, a guy is literally running straight up the middle at him. Kirk didn't even see him, and he gets nailed. And Grant, it was a horrible block by, I don't remember who was trying to pick him up. I think Ezra Cleveland was late sliding over or something. But I mean, he's looking straight up the field. He doesn't see this guy coming right at him. Like, that's just the kind of pocket awareness, I guess, I'm disappointed with in Kirk, and I'm kind of sick of seeing, because we see those plays all too often. And there's other quarterbacks out there, even like a Teddy Bridgewater, he'll see that guy, or he can sense the rush coming and he'll step up in the pocket, or he'll roll out of the pocket and, make a throw down the field. So not saying it, Teddy's better than Kirk, because he's not, but it's just when you're talking specifically pocket awareness, and being able to make plays with your feet, that's a big part of today's NFL. And I don't know, like Mac Jones is doing great because he can manipulate the pocket. The Patriots set up an offense where he makes quick throws, quick decisions. I think they make it pretty easy for him. And obviously he still makes some really nice throws, but it's two different systems. And I don't think Kirk Cousins is necessarily built to win in this system, because there's some longer developing routes where he has to wait. And then obviously the offensive line can't hold up. So I don't know. It's not quite a fit here, I don't think, with Kirk, and I don't think it would be with Mac Jones either.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the limitations with Mac Jones, I think, are, like you said, are the same exact ones we have with Kirk Cousins. So it's like, I don't know how much would really change if we brought Mac Jones in here to replace Kirk. So I think Jones had a spectacular season to this point, especially for a rookie starting on day one in the NFL. Like, he's far exceeded all the other rookie quarterbacks that have been playing this year. So hats off to him, because I thought he'd be the worst one of the 5 that got drafted in the first round. So
same.
That's great. But at the same time, he probably found himself in the best situation right from the jump compared to all these other ones. Like, if you think about it, you got Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. That was a disaster to start this year. And I think it's coming back a little bit, but still it's looking rough.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Zach Wilson in New York with the Jets. That's obviously been a rough show because he's thrown how many picks. But again, the team is bad. And then you got, Lance with San Francisco. He hasn't really played because they got Jimmy G sputtering out there. And they got Fields out in Chicago. And he struggled at first, but he's gotten better these last couple of weeks. But still, Mac Jones has been at least decent ever since the beginning. So I think that's great for him. But again, probably would have been a fit here. I'm still on the train of believing that Fields have been so nice to draft there in that first round this past year.
Yeah, I'm with you. To have a quarterback like that would just be so nice. Takes so much pressure off the offensive line. The more you can buy time and create plays and get out of the pocket, that obviously gives a guy like Jefferson more time to get open. Thielen, I mean, those guys would benefit from that too. So it's not like it's just the quarterback or the offensive line benefiting from the quarterback. So it's definitely something to think about. As we get closer to the draft and stuff, we'll kind of talk more about it too. But it's kind of looking like we'll have a mid to like 15 to 20 probably pick, I would guess, in the first round. So we're obviously probably not getting one of those top quarterbacks at that pick. So it's really going to have to turn into like Kellen Mond being the guy, I think, at this point.
And yeah, that's a huge question mark. So obviously, we've seen very little of him and then none in any sort of actual game action. So
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot to be decided there. You got to trust what everybody thinks internally and what everybody sees behind the scenes to make that decision if they're comfortable rolling forward with him or not. And I think that'll probably end up being what happens is us rolling in next year with him and a veteran bridge quarterback. But I can also, like, it wouldn't be shocking either if, like, some quarterback fell on the board in next April and we hopped on one, like Matt Corral or something. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like you said, it depends where we're going to pick right now. It's not looking like we're going to be in a good position to take one, but at the same time, things could change pretty quick. We could lose the Packers next week and start another downward spiral. So
True.
who knows? But at the same time, yeah, there's a lot to come there at the QB position, I think. But that's going to make next offseason a lot of fun.
So is Matt Corral probably your guy, like the guy you would want the most out of this upcoming class?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. I think Blake Willis sounds like a lot of fun just because he's super athletic dude, got a lot of great intangibles, but at the same time, he's very raw and needs a lot of development. So I don't know if that excites me right now, but at the same time, it just depends like how much you think we can win now and how much we're really waiting for an actual window. I don't know, but
Yeah.
so I'd probably go with Corral just because he seems like, I mean, he's arguably the Heisman front runner, at least one of them this year, and he just seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I think I'd be pretty comfortable with that pick. And at the same time, beyond those two, I'm not super crazy about any of the other ones. I know Kenny Pickett's kind of rising up the board there at Pitt, but I think he's mostly a pocket passer, which I don't really want, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't feel as in general, I just don't feel as great about this quarterback class as I did last year.
Yeah, I've seen some draft analysts compare his mobility to like Joe Burrow. So obviously not amazing, but he can move. But like I haven't watched any of Kenny Pickett, so I really don't know what his game looks like. But I mean, hard to rule it out. I mean, we'll dig into it more as draft season comes, obviously. But it's just unfortunate because last year it seemed like there were so many blue chip quarterback prospects you don't want to miss on. And then Trey Lance goes 3, and you're like, dang it, like that's a potential guy that could have slid. We had an opportunity to trade up for Justin Fields. Bears trade up and get him instead. Like,
yeah,
it's just stuff like that makes it frustrating because then it's like, okay, this year's a down year for quarterbacks. But then we'll draft one, and then the following year it'll be Bryce Young, who's really freaking good. And then who knows who else will be in that class with him. But it's like, man, like you're missing. It seems like you're missing opportunities to really pick that franchise-changing guy just based on going 500 or picking a quarterback in the off year, stuff like that.
I totally agree. Yeah, it's sometimes you're just gonna get lucky as far as the year that you're bad and the quarterback class being deep. Hopefully, so then you have as many guys to evaluate as possible to take a chance on. So I think this year, if this is the year we take the quarterback, it doesn't feel like a great year right now to take one, but at the same time, things could change pretty quick. And like we could look at this one and be like, oh, this isn't great. But then down the road, it'd be like, wow, look at all these guys that can play. That just sometimes you don't know for sure because quarterbacks are a very hard position to evaluate how they'll translate to the next level. But obviously, that it takes a while to be able to tell that too. But I'm personally still behind Kellen Mond, even though, like I said, I don't really know that much about him because we haven't seen him play that much. But at the same time, I like the skill set, got the big arm, got the mobility. That's what really excites me. And he got better every year at A&M, so I hope he's getting better behind the scenes here with the Vikings too. Yeah. And I'd at least like to give him a chance because we did use a somewhat high pick on him. What was it, 66th overall or something? Like that's not ridiculously high, but like that's a pretty. I mean, it was our second draft pick overall, so I think that says something. So I'd at least like to give him a fair chance.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And that's what's kind of frustrating is there's really nobody, like no reporters or anything have reported from behind the scenes or what sources inside the team are telling them about Kellen Mond because we have absolutely no idea how he's developing, how he's looking because nobody gets to see practice. Obviously, he doesn't get in any games. So, like, really, we're not going to know unless it comes down to the end of the season. and we're either out of contention or Kirk Cousins is hurt. And otherwise, I don't think we're going to know. And
isn't that crazy?
That's what's frustrating is like if Kirk Cousins got hurt, would they even start Kellen Mond? Because like Mannion's the one that's active on game day.
They'd probably go to Sean first, but then he'd probably be a disaster, and then they'd be forced to go to Kellen Mond to look respectable. That's what I think.
But my thing is like if Mannion's main purpose on this team is to be Kirk Cousins' buddy and basically be a second quarterback coach, why is he dressed? Because like we all know he can't play. So like if Kirk goes down, we might as well see what we have in Kellen Mond and give him a fair shot too. Like don't limit the playbook for him. Like he's probably I'm guessing he's a smart guy. He was a 4-year guy at Texas A&M. He probably knows the playbook. Get him in there. Let him hand the ball off to Dalvin. Let him get the ball to Justin Jefferson. Like he's got weapons. I think he'd be able to handle it. It's because if Kirk goes down, your season's over anyways. So why mess around with Sean Mannion? You might as well give Kellen Mond a shot. So
totally agree. And maybe I'm off base a little bit too. But I assume with things like this that I think Sean would start. Like,
I do too.
Maybe Mannion would be a guy that's like going to fill in for Kirk to finish a game. But maybe if you had a whole week of preparation, then maybe they actually go to Mond instead. But we don't know for sure. But
yeah, and that's the thing about Kirk too is he doesn't get hurt, which is honestly a great thing. Like that's what you want. You want your starting quarterback to be available.
Durable.
And that Kirk's probably one of the most durable quarterbacks in the league. Like even more so than Aaron Rodgers or basically anybody. So, I mean, obviously that's great to have. But as we've talked about before, he's good, but he's just not good enough. And it'd be nice to take a look at the future, especially since this team is probably not going anywhere as currently constructed. So
they could be a huge transitional period this offseason, yeah.
Exactly. And that's what's been kind of nice. Like, even though it sucks to have all these defensive injuries, you're getting to look at guys like James Lynch and Armon Watts who are holding their own at defensive tackle, which is great to see.
Yeah.
You're getting to look at Cam Bynum, who's playing great. Cam Dantzler's getting more of an opportunity now, which he should be. He's playing well. So you're getting an opportunity to look at some of these younger guys that have a chance to actually contribute. And I don't think that's a bad thing because if we're not going to compete this year, especially with the guys we have, you might as well take a look at the future because that's the only hope there is for this team is the future because we got some intriguing young players. We got some guys that are, on the backside of their career but could still play for a couple more years. So it's just about finding the right balance and finding the right coach who's willing to embrace these players and, be aggressive and enable these players really. So it's a great win today, obviously, but I mean, overall, looking at the big picture, we're still 4-5. Still let too many games slip away this season due to being conservative. Just lack of situational awareness, really, from both players and coaches. So it's pretty evident that like there's still a long way to go in terms of like being a competitive team. And so, in my opinion, the best way to look at it is look ahead to the draft and go from there.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think with, considering what the way this season has gone up and down, like you said, ultimately we're 4-5 right now. And like I said, we got a long ways to go to try and pick the playoffs and make any sort of run. And at the same time, I think we also got to consider how you never know. If you win I could change my tune a lot if we win or have a resounding win next week against the Packers and you're back to 5-5. You just picked up a huge rivalry win against the top team in the NFC right now. As far as record goes, I mean, obviously that could be debated, but still it would be a huge win. So maybe I'd change my tune a little bit. But to this point, it's like it's one win to snap a losing streak. So it's like I'm not going to get too excited. But again, I'm going to credit them on a good win because like you said, they played pretty solid in all three phases.
That's right. The Packers are the top team right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's just insane to think about, man. That's crazy to think about.
Amid all the turmoil that they had this offseason, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And the Vikings, it seems like everything just continues to blow up more and more. Which, after all the craziness that happened this last week with the Dalvin Cook situation and all the COVID, I was amazed they came out and played that well today. But we kind of thought that at the same time. It's like it would be totally the Vikings to just come out and win this game when nobody expects them to.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I kind of saw it coming. But actually, if I was looking ahead to these 4 games, I know it's easy to say this in hindsight after we picked up the win. But if I would have told you, like, during the bye week of these next 4 games, which one I feel the best about, I probably would have said the Cowboys game with Dak out, but
Yeah.
with Dak in, I probably would have said this Chargers game, honestly, just because of the dome environment. They don't have a great established home fan base there. So like
Yep.
I don't think it'd be too like extreme for us playing on the road per se. So I'd like this one, and we went out and did it. So let's see if we can pick up another one and make it 2-2 during this 4-game stretch that we kept talking about, like leading up to it. That could make or break our season.
Yeah, so Ryan said he's joining late here, but he'd love to get our opinions on Cam Bynum.
Yeah.
We already did mention this, but yeah, Cam Bynum's been fantastic. Had a great sack today, a very nice anticipatory play. Yeah, and we mentioned how Harrison Smith will probably be back next week, so it'll be him and Xavier Woods back at safety. But it'd be really nice to find a way to get Cam Bynum in there every now and then as like a hybrid safety type / linebacker. I don't know how you could mix him in, but I mean, the guy has some very good instincts and he's able to make plays when he sees them. And you kind of mentioned that how he did, he grinds hard on the film, and he noticed what the Ravens were running last week. He picked up on it right away. The second he knew what they were doing, he ran to that spot and jumped and picked the ball off. Like,
Yes.
he's a very instinctual player. He's a very smart player, and he also gets to learn from Harrison Smith. So,
That's
I
huge.
mean, he's sitting in a very good spot right now. So he's an intriguing player as a 4th-round pick. He's a rookie. Like, I mean, this could definitely be a starting safety at some point for the Vikings.
Oh yeah, totally. I loved everything he had to say about Bynum. I don't think anything more needs to be said. I think he covered everything there, from the sack today on a nice blitz, and then last week to the nice pick, and then kind of adding on to the second part of Ryan's comment here with Jets. I mean, this guy, he was awesome today, and
Yeah.
get him as many targets as possible. The guy's gonna make good things happen. Throw it to him tight windows. He's gonna come down with it most of the time. So I think you just got to give him more and more chances, because he's gonna go out there and flat out win you games. So I think
Yep.
that's awesome that we got him as incorporated as we did, and that needs to continue going forward if we're gonna keep winning games.
And I can't stress this enough. Justin Jefferson is the Minnesota Vikings. He is the most important player on the team. He is
Yeah.
the face of the franchise as it currently stands. I know Dalvin Cook is usually the one they put on every promo when they're showing the big game. It's Dalvin Cook and then whoever the other quarterback is.
Yeah.
They never really put Kirk Cousins on there because, let's face it, he's just not the face of the franchise.
No.
And I love having Dalvin on there, but
Yeah,
I
love
really
Dalvin.
think it's starting to change now. I think Jefferson, if given the opportunities, which he was today, is easily a top 10 receiver in the NFL. And I think he's a top 5 receiver. If you just give him the ball, I mean, he
Yeah.
makes the plays. He goes up and high points the ball. He's torching guys on his route running. Obviously, he's a vertical threat as well. We saw that last week against the Ravens. The guy's got speed. He can break tackles. He's very rubbery. He's always stretching out, for extra yards. Like, I mean, he's literally everything you want in a receiver, and he stays healthy too. So, I mean, knock on wood, but he hasn't missed an NFL game in his young career yet. So,
Yeah.
obviously, there's so much to like there. And like we mentioned earlier, the number one priority is keeping Justin Jefferson happy. You don't want to run him out of town like you did with Diggs. So,
Exactly. And it's no fluke that he's, with all these stats he's been picking up and all the games he's played to this point in his career, he continuously finds himself in the rare air of Randy Moss. So
yeah.
that's no fluke, and that means you're definitely legit when you're talking about in my opinion, the greatest receiver of all time. So
Yeah.
I think that's huge. I think this guy's gonna be great. Like you said, I think he's the face of the franchise. He's the guy that's most important to this team going forward. So I think definitely get him as involved as possible and make him the center of attention as much as you can.
And like, as good as Stephon Diggs was, it took him a few years to really start putting up like big time stats.
Yeah.
And whether that was his fault or not, like he's playing with Bradford and Keenum and all these guys, but like Jefferson's doing stuff that Diggs could never even have dreamt of doing in his first couple seasons in the NFL. I mean, Diggs was a 5th-round pick, obviously just a different opportunity, but Jefferson being a 1st-round pick, getting thrown in right away as like one of the top 2 receivers on his team. And now he's a clear-cut wide receiver one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Exactly. I think the slight difference there, I guess, is probably just because Diggs was a 5th-round pick. And I was going to say he didn't get that many opportunities over there. But then again, when I think about it, he did actually start playing like a few games into his rookie season. I remember that big one, the first game he was active out there in Denver. I remember Teddy finding him a consistent amount, and he had a big game. And kind of got a lot of playing time after that. So
Yeah.
I guess I was wrong about that. But like Ryan said here, with when you talk about Diggs and Jefferson, the route running, you just notice that every time they show these replays, these guys getting open, like it's just ridiculous. They put these guys on skates and make them look silly and come down with all these catches running all over the field. I mean, it's great. And like you said, I think Diggs is fantastic, but I think Jefferson's going to be even better.
I do too, and it's crazy. Like you compare these two, and yeah, they're both excellent route runners, some of the best route runners in the league. But you watch the way they do it. Like Diggs is very quick, very sudden movements. Like he's just really trying to juke guys out. Whereas Jefferson's got like longer strides. I'd say he's more smooth. Just the way he runs his routes, it doesn't look like he's like going as hard as like what Diggs does. You know, I guess I don't really know how to explain it that great, but hopefully you're picking up on what I'm putting down. But yeah, Jefferson's just like a more polished, smooth route runner. So not that it matters because they're both great receivers and they both do it their own way, but just something I've noticed as well. And I think Thielen's kind of along that same line as well as being a smooth route runner.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. Some of the best route runners in the game. I feel like there's no doubt about it. Every single commentator we get, I think, brings it up at least once in the broadcast, if not twice, no matter what team we get, because it seems like it's a different one every week, and usually they like to do that. But everybody always brings it up, and I think even got guys like Devontae Adams have come out. I remember seeing this like a month or two ago. He's like, my top 5 route runners in the league. He included both Jefferson and Diggs in his top 5, and he obviously named himself number 1. But
yeah, which I mean, Devontae Adams is a very good route runner.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I guess the only really complaint offensively I have today, outside of like the Kirk fumble and just kind of a boneheaded couple sacks he took, is KJ Osborne. I don't think caught a pass today, which was kind of unfortunate. But you know, once again, we got CJ Ham with a few catches, and Conklin had a nice game, and Chris Herndon had a couple catches. It's like they're getting everyone the ball except KJ Osborne, which he's wide receiver 3. He's not a huge priority, but I still would really like to see him get the ball more.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with you there. That's pretty frustrating, especially when we saw that. I think it was the opening drive. He tried to force a ball into, was it Jefferson? Or
yeah, it was.
I think it was Jefferson. Yeah. And Harris completely broke off the route of Osborne and waited for Kirk to throw that ball. Like it was way before he threw it. So he had Osborne on the top and probably could have been 6. So that's kind of frustrating to see that. I don't know why he went away from Osborne after the bye week, but we just haven't seen him that much.
Yeah, that's an excellent observation, honestly. Last week against the Ravens, I don't know, did he catch a pass last week? Not that it really matters, but yeah, that is a good observation that since the bye week, they really haven't gotten Osborne involved at all, which...
I mean, granted, the passing game has been putrid until today, but...
Yeah, and they've really tried to get Dalvin going too, which I don't blame him because he's healthy and
against a bad run defense.
Exactly. Like, and you know, if Dalvin's going well, then your team's probably doing well. So, I mean, we talk about, you know, this team needs to pass more and they need to feature Jefferson more. It's like, we don't want them to get away from Dalvin Cook. Like Dalvin Cook's one of the best running backs in the NFL. And if he's not playing, Alexander Mattison does a good job too. So you got good running backs. And we've even mentioned, you know, maybe Kene Nwangu needs to get in on offense too. So they've got talented players all across the running back position on offense, but it's just, I don't know. You got to keep feeding Dalvin because who knows how long you're going to have him for. With this legal situation, he could be gone next year, depending how this goes. But he's also getting up there in age for a running back too. So use him while you got him, I guess, because otherwise you don't want to waste him, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. For sure. No, I totally agree. I don't think you could have said it any better there. I think with Dalvin, especially when you consider the money that we're paying him, you'd like to get him as involved as we can, not waste that. And with the special talent that he is, one of the best running backs in the league, want to put the ball in his hands, at least somewhat to make the offense balanced. Because, you know, when you get too one-dimensional and things go haywire and you start to get really dysfunctional. So you got to keep him involved. But at the same time, we just want to see the ball in Jefferson's hands more.
Exactly. So do you have any other final thoughts, I guess, before we take off here?
Good win today, but I think my tune will change a lot more if we win next week against Green Bay.
So are you still in on the Fire Zimmer train?
For now, yeah.
And if we beat Green Bay next week?
It depends how we beat them, I think. If we have like some really crisp, clean win where we play well in like all 3 phases and really bring it to them, then then I'll be more on the fence.
Okay.
It just depends. But obviously, it comes down to how the season ends, not really
Yeah.
what happens in the middle here. But
yeah, I think I'm probably on the Fire Zimmer train unless we can really just impress and win a playoff game or two. And then in doing that, do what we did today. Be aggressive, throw Justin Jefferson the ball. Like that needs to be a weekly occurrence. That can't just be for one game. So, and if they do that more often, they'll win more games too. So we'll know either way. But yeah, I think I'm on the Fire Zimmer train until basically he proves it. So
fair. I can't disagree with you there. I think definitely when we're in year 8 of a coach, it feels like we need to see good results.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Once again, thank you to everybody for getting us up over 200 subscribers. We hope to keep it rolling. Looking forward to the next 200 subscribers as well as we keep growing this channel. Yeah, we do these every week after every Vikings game. So next week, tune in as well, especially after the big Packers game. That'll be something. So that might be our best show yet for sure. So feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, tune in more this week for more Minnesota sports content. We'll be probably doing more Vikings videos, definitely Wild videos because they're hot. And we'll probably have to go over the Timberwolves, even though they're struggling right now. So hopefully they can get that thing turned around. But yeah, keep tuning in and thanks for watching.